Hello everyone, and there was an important message for the new OM24 that I want to talk. So this episode of the Inside the Mind of the Literature contains graphic details, violence, racism, mass atrocities, rape, that you can name it. And I'm sure that this novel was depressing and horrific. It was a character that was quite to be the most iconic and the most notorious in the world's literature's villains. And this video I will dedicate it to the late Cormac McCarthy, who passed away on June this year. However, about that, Cormac McCarthy was quite to be the most influential American writers of the 20th century America. His works depicted the harsh reality of the United States, and his work was quite to be inspirations, such as works like Breaking Bad, Ozarks, video games like As Dusk Fall, The Last of Us, and even Red Dead Redemption. And rest in peace, Mr. McCarthy, and happy spooky months. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Inside the Mind of the Literature, featuring Blood Meridians by Cormac McCarthy. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, Western novel of all time, Blood Meridians was one of the Cormac McCarthy's most infamous works that depicting violence in the early 19th century US-Mexico border, and the atrocity that committed both the US and Mexican soldier there. The novel was entirely inspired by the revisionist Western genre or outside it. And now, let's begin into the inside the mind of the literature, Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. To understand the novel, we will understand the historical background of it. Following the end of the Mexican-American War on February 2nd, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, that 525,000 square miles to the U.S. territory, including the land that make up all or parts of present-day Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. There was an insurgency in the American Southwest before the Civil War. A group known as the Filibuster fought against the Mexican police, soldiers, and the local Native American. The Native American, such as the Apaches and Yuma, opposed the American filibuster, the Mexican police and the soldier, and in the 1849, the government of Mexico offered 100 pesos for the scalps of the Native American. That made many mercenaries from around the world come to this region and committed even worse atrocity. The novel tells the stories of the teenage runaway referred to only as the Kid, born in Tennessee during the famously active Leonet's meteor showers of 1833. He first met the enormous pale Harris Judge Holden at a religious reviews in a tent in Nacogdoches, Texas, and which Holden falsely accused the preacher of raping children and goats, igniting the audience to attack him. After a violent encounter with a bartender established the Kid as a formidable fighter, he joined a party of ill-equipped U.S. Army irregularly on a filibustering mission, led by Captain White. Captain White's group is overwhelmed by an occupied group of hundreds of Comanche warriors, and few of them survive. Arrested as a filibuster in Chihuahua, the Kid is set free when his acquaintance told White tell his authority they will make helpful Indian hunters. They join Glendon and his gang, among them Holden. And the bulk of the novel is devoted to detailing the activities and conversation. To initially tasked with protecting locals from marrying Apaches, the gangs devolved into the outright murder of untreating Indians, unprotected Mexican village, and eventually even the Mexican army and police, and anyone else who crossed their path. According to the Kid's new companion, Ben Tobin, The Glendon gang first met Judge while fleeing for their life from a much larger Apache group in the middle of a blast desert. They found Holden sitting on an enormous boulder where he seems to be waiting for the gang. They agreed to follow his leadership and he took them to an extinct volcano where he instructed them on how to manufacture gunpowder, enough to give them and everything against the Apaches. Where the kid remembers seeing Holden in Nacogdoches, Tobin tells the kid that each man in the gang claimed to have met the judge before they joined the gang. After months of marinating, the gang crossed into US territory, where they eventually set up a systematic and brutal robbing operation at a ferry on the Colorado River at Yuma, Arizona. The Quechua Indians are initially approached to help the gang wrest control of the ferry from its original owners, but Glendon betrays and slaughters them. After a while, the Yuma attack and kill most of the gang. The kid, Toadwild, and Tobin are amongst the survivors who flee through the deserts. Till the kids take an arrow in the lake, the kid and Tobin head west and had encountered Holden again, who negotiated and then treating them for their guns and possession. The group continues their travel, ending up in San Diego. The kid is separated from Tobin and is subsequently imprisoned. Holden visits him in jail and tells him that he has told the jailer the truth, that the kid alone was responsible for the end of the Glendon gang. The kid is released and seeks to a doctor to treat his wound. While recovering from the spirits of Ether, he is hallucinated that the judge visiting him with a curious man who forged corn. The kids recover and seek out Tobin with no luck. He makes his way to Los Angeles, where Toadwild and another members of the Glendon gang, David Brown, are publicly hanged for their crimes. Now let's talk about the character in question. The kid is the main protagonist of the novel. He was a native Tennessean whose mother died in his childbirth. Judge Holden is a muscular man, huge, pale, and hairless man, who was acquired to be quite a sadistic man who committed numerous crimes, usually a mercenary. John Joel Glendon was the leader of the gang who was working for the Mexican government to commit the scouts against the Native American. Louis Toadwild was an outlaw whom the kid brought and then burned down a hotel. Ben Tobin, or aka ex-priest, a gang member and formerly a novice of the Societies of Jesus. Captain White was a former veteran of the Mexican-American War-turned filibuster. Bavcat was a Welshman who working in Van Diemen Land, or modern-day Tasmania in Australia. Working at a penal colony, he was known for killing of the Aborigines people and raped and sexually assaulted numerous Irish women and girls, even the Aborigines too. David Brown, another member of the gang who wore a necklace of human ears, likely taken from Bavcat crops after Bavcat was killed by the Mexican police. John Jackson refers to two men, Black Jacksons and White Jacksons. The major themes of Blood Meridian is the human affinity for violence. McCarthy used violence character, particularly the judge, to show that humans have always been drawn to violence, and that violence is a natural characteristic of humans. Evil was found not even in the world of Blood Meridian. Let's explain that the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, an unending conflict in which that both the UN and NATO can intervene. Both the Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces are committing atrocities on both sides. Just the quote that the Judge Holden said.
The mountains to the north lay sunwise in corrugated folds, and the days were cool and the nights were cold. And they sat about the fire, each in his round of darkness, in that round of dark, while the idiot watched from his cage at the edge of the light. The judge cracked with the back of an axe the shin bone on an antelope. and the hot marrow dripped smoking on the stones. They watched him. The subject was war. "The good book says that he that lives by the sword shall perish by the sword," said the black. The judge smiled, his face shining with grease. "What right man would have it any other way?" he said. "The good book does indeed count war and evil," said Irving. "Yet there's many a bloody tale of war inside it." "It makes no difference what men think of war," said the judge. "War endures. As well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. That is the way it was and will be. That way and not some other way." He turned to Brown, from whom he'd heard some whispered slur or demur. "Ah, Davy," he said. "It's your own trade we honor here. Why not rather take a small bow? Let each acknowledge each." "My trade?" "Certainly. What is my trade?" "War. War is your trade, is it not?" "And it ain't yours?" "Mine too, very much so." "What about all them notebooks and bones and stuff?" "All other trades are contained in that of war." "Is that why war endures?" "No. It endures because young men love it, and old men love it in them. Those that fought, those that did not. That's your notion." The judge smiled. "Men are born for games, nothing else. Every child knows that play is nobler than work. He knows, too, that the worth or merit of a game is not inherent in the game itself, but rather in the value of that which is put at hazard. Games of chance require a wager to have meaning at all. Games of sport involve the skill and strength of the opponents, and the humiliation of defeat and the pride of victory are in themselves sufficient stake, because they inhere in the worth of the principles and define them. But trial of chance or trial of worth, all games aspire to the condition of war. For here, that which is wagered swallows up game, player, all. Suppose two men at cards with nothing to wager save their lives. Who has not heard such a tale? A turn of the card. The whole universe for such a player has labored clanking to this moment, which will tell if he is to die at that man's hand or that man at his. What more certain validation of a man's worth could there be? This enhancement of the game to its ultimate state admits no argument concerning the notion of fate. The selection of one man over another is a preference absolute and irrevocable. And it is a dull man indeed who could reckon so profound a decision without agency or significance, either one. In such games as have for their stake the annihilation of the defeated, the decisions are quite clear. This man, holding this particular arrangement of cards in his hand, is thereby removed from existence. This is the nature of war, whose stake is at once the game and the authority and the justification. Seen so, war is the truest form of divination. It is the testing of one's will and the will of another within that larger will, which, because it binds them, is therefore forced to select. War is the ultimate game, because war is at last a forcing of the unity of existence. War is God. Brown studied the judge. "You're crazy, Holden. Crazy at last." The judge smiled. "Might does not make right," said Irving. "The man that wins in some combat is not vindicated morally." Moral law is an invention of mankind for the disenfranchisement of the powerful in favor of the weak. Historical law subverts it at every turn. A moral view can never be proven right or wrong by any ultimate test. A man falling dead in a duel is not thought thereby to be proven in error as to his views. His very involvement in such a trial gives evidence of a new and broader view. The willingness of the principals to forego further argument as the triviality which it in fact is, and to petition directly the chambers of the historical absolute, clearly indicates of how little moment are the opinions, and of what great moment the divergences thereof. For the argument is indeed trivial, but not so the separate wills thereby made manifest. Man's vanity may well approach the infinite in capacity, but his knowledge remains imperfect, and however much he comes to value his judgments, ultimately he must submit them before a higher court. Here, there can be no special pleading. Here are considerations of equity and rectitude and moral right rendered void and without warrant. And here are the views of the litigants despised. Decisions of life and death, of what shall be and what shall not, beggar all questions of right. In elections of these magnitudes are all lesser ones subsumed, moral, spiritual, natural. The judge searched out the circle for disputants. "But what says the priest?" he said. Tobin looked up. "The priest does not say." "The priest does not say," said the judge. "Nihil dicit." "But the priest has said. For the priest has put by the robes of his craft and taken up the tools of that higher calling which all men honor. The priest also would be no God-server, but a god himself." Tobin shook his head. "You've a blasphemous tongue, Holden. And in truth, I was never a priest, but only a novitiate to the order." "Journeyman priest or apprentice priest," said the judge. "Men of God and men of war have strange affinities." "I'll not second-say you in your notions," said Tobin. "Don't ask it." "Ah, priest," said the judge, "what could I ask of you that you've not already given?"
Now, let's talk about the ending. In 1878, the kid, now in his mid-40s, and referred to as the man, made his way to Fort Griffin, Texas. At a saloon, he met the judge again, who seemed not to have aged in their intervening year. Holden called the kid the last of the true, and the pair talked. Holden declared that the kid has arrived at the saloon for the dance violent, war, and bloodshed that the judge has so often praised. The kid despises Holden's idea, telling the judge, "You ain't nothing," and nothing. The performing bears at the saloon states even a dumb animal can dance. Afterwards, the kids go to an outhouse under a thermometer shower. In the outhouse, he is surprised by the naked judge, who, gathering him in his arm against his immersed and terrible flesh. Later, two men open the door to the outhouse and can only gaze in horror at what they see. One stating, "God, good, almighty." The last paragraph finds the judge back in the saloon, dancing and playing fiddles among the drunkards, the prostitutes, and the quote that the judge said, "And they are dancing." The board floor slamming under the jackboots, and the fiddlers grinning hideously over their can piece. Tumbling over them all is the judge, and he's naked dancing, his small feet lively and quick, and now in double towel and bowing to the ladies, huge and pale and hairless, like an enormous infant. "He never sleeps," he say he's never die. He bowed to the fiddlers and sashayed backwards and threw back his head and laughed deep in his throat. And he is a great favorite. The judge, He waved his hat, and the lunar domes of his skull passed palely under the lamps, and he swung about and take positions of one of the fiddles, and he partook and make a pass, two pass, dancing and fiddling at once. His feet are like and nimbles. He never sleep. He say that he will never dies. He then in lights and in shadow, and he is a great favorite. He never sleep, the judge. He's dancing, dancing. He say that he will never die. While Cormac McCarthy's works was adapted into film, the most famous film based on Cormac's works, such as No Country for Old Men, that won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Picture, and the Pulitzer Prize winning The Road, directed by John Hillcourt, the same director who directed the Proposition starring Guy Pearce. Blood Meridian was a novel that many film studios planned to adapt, but it failed because the novel is too violent to be a film. Recently, on April 28, 2023, Deadline reported that New Regency was adapting Blood Meridian as a feature film. Director that John Hillcourt, who previously directed an adaptation of McCarthy's novel The Road, is set to direct it, alongside his son, John Francis. McCarthy was set to serve as executive producer of the film before his death on June 13 at the same year. And thank you for watching of the Inside of the Literature. I think that this novel was the most depressing novel that I ever read. I will never read this book again, and I plan to write a novel. It's like a crime novel titled Meridian that follows the stories of a boy involved to the murder that links to the organ harvesting ring. And next video that I will make is Iceberg Charge again. And if some parts was inaccurate, I will apologize about that. And thank you for watching of this video. See you on the next episodes of Inside the Mind of the Literature, and goodbye.